And hello again. The reason I'm doing these as a separate video, by the way, is because this way it will be really easy to track when we've started this cycle. And I'm going to set these up in playlists by books so that you can also easily track how long it's taken in each book, and so they're easily accessible beyond this. Yeah, so so it seemed wise to separate these from the prayer videos themselves. We've got Paul's epistle to the Romans, which, ironically enough, in the canonical order, the list in which Paul's writings appear in the New Testament, Romans comes first. The four Gospels, Acts, which is a history of the first generation, and then we get into the corpus, the body of Paul's writings, and Romans comes first. Only Romans doesn't come first. Romans is Paul's last writing. Romans is Paul refined. Paul the old man. Paul who has had time to wrestle with, that's not what I meant to share. Paul who has had time to wrestle with God, with faith, with his discipleship, his apostleship. What's this all mean? The gospel is life. Well, what's that mean? Paul has had the time to be shaped in this and to come to a deeper understanding walking through it. And so we get this refined, this last word of Paul from this. I love this. Let me zoom in on this. From where he starts as Saul of Tarsus, a Pharisee, to Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles, which is an incredibly radical change of heart and mind that brings a Pharisee to be one who delights in being among Gentiles. It's pretty incredible. Now, there are, as we will see going through this, there are four major sections to this final word of Paul to the Romans. The first part, the first four chapters, the gospel reveals God's righteousness. The second part, chapters 5 through 8, God creates a new humanity. Chapters 9 and through 11, God fulfills God's promise to Israel. And then finally, chapters 12 to 16, God unifies the church. And there's some lovely subsections in this, and you're going to see this again. We'll come back to this again and again as we read. So I'm not going to say anything right now about these specific groupings. But it's just interesting to see for now there is something here in the way of a structure. You see how refined this is? It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. By the way, next summer we are going to be reading a whole lot of Romans. Um, Almost all of the epistles for the summer months of like June, July, August next summer are all Romans. So much so that at my rector's study, starting with Pentecost and May 24th and going through um, the first Sunday of September, we're going to be doing a walkthrough of Romans all summer long in my rector's forum study at 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Romans is crucial in our Reformation tradition. Martin Luther loved, loved, loved Romans. The reformers love Paul, by the way. And this is one of the places that they love to turn the quickest to Paul dealing with this Roman congregation described in Acts 18, which was a congregation that began as a combination of Jews and non-Jews, Jews and Gentiles. And it remained that way until at one point the emperor expelled all of the Jews out of Rome. And the effect of the emperor expelling all of the Jews was then you get this divided congregation that at once was at peace with being Jews and Gentiles side by side, which becomes fractured. Imagine that, right? And Paul comes in to bring them together. It's an incredible book. We're not going to read any of it right now. That's just right now. It's just a moment to walk through, get familiar, see the structure. Next time we pick up Romans, we'll start reading, which will be in a couple of days. Tonight, we're going to do the same thing around our evening prayers, I believe, with Lamentations, which is not going to be quite so detailed because, well, Lamentations is 5 chapters. There's not much that is quite this structured. This is structured. This is well thought out. There's a formal word in ancient usage called an apology. This is an apology in the strictest, most traditional sense of the word. We think of apology as, well, turning from something, recanting of something. In its traditional, strictest sense, an apology is a defense, a presentation. Romans is Paul's apology for what it means to be church, what it means to be Christian, what it means to be a follower of Jesus, an identity that has come over Paul's lifetime to come from having no meaning to being everything. And he will not deny it. He will lose his life first before he denies his identity and his faith as a follower of Jesus. And he does. Beheaded by the Romans by order of the emperor. Beheaded because he was a Roman citizen. And, Roman citizens, for as cruel as the Romans were to those who were not of the empire, as cruel as the Romans were to non-citizens, much crueler than anything we see these days that we call out. The Romans believed that citizens, no matter what they did, deserved an honorable death, and beheading was seen to be honorable because it was quick and it wasn't painful. Well, maybe for a moment. No one's ever been able to tell us how painful it is or isn't, but most medical folks believe it's quick, like instant and done. But enough of that happy note. Yeah, so there's Romans. And we'll come back to that in a couple of days. Thank you for joining us for this also. Good morning, Don and Linda. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Francis. Good morning, Carol. Have a wonderful day, dear friends. And I hope you can join us for evening prayers tonight. And either before or after evening prayers, we'll talk about Lamentations in this same way. Peace be with you, now and always.